Hi Aries, it's Jenny here with your April Tarot Horoscope, and happy birthday to all of you who are having birthdays in April. So we're just going to pull a single card to see what is coming up for you for the month. So obviously the first chunk of April is Aries season, and that's the first sign of the zodiac. So we're in an energetic new year that started with the March equinox. And then towards the end of the month, we're going to be rolling into Taurus season. So we're starting off with a good dose of fire energy, and then with Taurus rolling in, we will be having some earth energy added to that. So I'm going to grab that card for you. So what do we have for you for this month? Okay, Aries, we have the Tower in reverse. So this is the way it looks the right way up. So it's an interesting card visually. There's lots of kinds of blues and grays. There's this dark kind of shadowy tower that doesn't really even seem like it's the center of the picture. It's very subdued. But we have these figures kind of falling off of it. There's this sort of mostly naked man, and then this kind of looks like a stone humanoid figure as well. They're falling off. There's a moon, there's a bunch of clouds, and then way in the center here, there's like this kind of window and this hole opening up that's kind of held up by this little crutch. And there's a whole other world kind of back there. So there's a lot going on there. And then it came out upside down like that. So that's the card. And we're going to see what it has to say. Okay, the Tower. Encounter with the Absolute. Two archetypes determine the meaning of this card. The Tower of Babel and Pentecost. The building of the Tower of Babel is a symbol of human megalomania, culminating not only in the destruction of the tower, but also in the Babylonian confusion of tongues. Pentecost is the opposite of the building of the tower. The Holy Ghost descends upon the disciples in the form of a storm and tongues of fire. As they start to talk, everyone hears themselves speaking in their own language. Instead of a confusion of tongues, this event symbolizes the tearing down of all language barriers. Babel and Pentecost are two opposite poles. Violence destroys and results in speechlessness and confusion. In contrast, love tears down all language barriers and makes true communication possible without limits. The card cautions you to beware of megalomania and lack of steadfastness. There might be rocky times ahead. You are urged to leave your ivory tower and your personal objections and pretenses behind when the time is ripe. This card also involves jumping out of the clouds and turning the free fall into flying. Practical advice. Go ahead and give it your all. You will gain more love and protect yourself better from danger if you learn consciously to deal with your energy. Risk being more direct. Take a leap into the unknown, even if the consequences are unfathomable. Whew, I love this card. The Tower is usually like a bad card in lots of decks or lots of interpretations where it's all just like catastrophe, everything falling apart. I love this particular interpretation of the card because it really shows, as do most cards, there's always an either or. There's an energy of something that's occurring, and that's an opportunity for a positive expansion or a potential kind of negative experience. No matter the intensity of the experience, there's always more than one way to experience it and to look at it depending on your perspective and what your choices are. So this sort of twin tower concept of this Tower of Babel and Pentecost, this destruction and confusion and hubris and megalomania, versus this joining, this love, this humility, and this understanding in the story of Pentecost. It's these two different ways to deal with the energy, and this is an interesting card to have showing up if you kind of notice here, this symbol here on the tower. This is the Aries ram horn. So this card in this deck is connected to Aries energy anyway. So that's this really like potent, like exciting, like triple whammy card for you right now. You guys being Aries in Aries season at the start of April with this card, like, whoo, oh geez, lots of energy here. And yeah, so there's calm down, I'm getting excited here. So Aries energy, this concept of Aries being very much about the self and the ego and being very impulsive, very direct. That symbol of the ram is like the ram that charges forward and butts into things. Nothing's getting in the way. So that's this like just moving forward, this impulsive energy that Aries has, which can be a super great strength because it punches stuff through. Other people are dilly-dallying about, I'm not sure what to do, or should I do it? And then boom, you're already through and to the goal by the time people are still kind of deciding what to do. So that's a really great strength. But it's also a potential weakness of being too impulsive, of just going for it without thinking and not quite being aware of the consequences of your actions. But in this card in particular, there's this sort of the sense of the tower is that the tower is crashing down anyway. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay and like cling to that which you believed in and cling to the hubris and the megalomania of this tower? Or are you going to take that impulsive leap and jump because it feels right? Lots of people might be like, oh, thinking, should I stay on the tower? I'm not sure. As opposed to this kind of Aryan opportunity is as soon as the time seems right, go. As soon as the intuition or the impulse says to jump and take the plunge, then do so, because then you have this opportunity to fly, whereas others are going to be crushed by the rubble being held onto things. So that's that invitation with the correct, or the not correct, but one of the more positive ways to use the Aryan energy at this point, when things are kind of going crazy or feel like they are, then intuition and impulse, if it's very tied to your center and your values, is just so much faster and more efficient way to do things than having to weigh out the pros and cons when you're unsure. In a crisis, impulse is often the things that saves your life. So that's a great strength to have. And then this card also has this other concept, the concept of ego or megalomania in Aries. Aries being the egoic, centered on the self, is something that's very important for all of us to learn and develop, to have an ego, to have a sense of self, but to not inflate it too much as being above and better than everybody else. So this card is the concept of megalomania and pride. And that's kind of an easy one to connect to the dark side of Aries, because that's a main one, is being too self-centered, being too egoic. But the polarity of this megalomania being love is an interesting one to then put into the Aries theme, because you're like, okay, what you often think of, well, the opposite of pride is humility. Or the opposite of an ego is to have no ego and to just serve other people. So I either care about myself, that's egoic, or I don't care about myself and I care about others. So there's this sort of false opposite polarity of thinking that the opposite of hubris is to not care about yourself at all. And that's what this card is saying, that's a wrong way to look at it. That there's this invitation, if what we're trying to heal the medicine of this megalomania and Tower of Babel sort of thing of confusion and destruction and separation, if love is the thing that we're trying to pull together, how can we play that in with Aryan energy? What does that look like? Okay, well, why not the love of the self? Your relationship to yourself, the one being that you exist with for your entire life, your relationship to yourself is one of the key founding baseline components of your sense of love, period. So having a healthy ego, having a healthy self-love, having a healthy sense of I exist, and because I exist, I am deserving of love. And I show the fact that I love myself by taking care of my needs. And when I have a need that springs from my egoic nature of being an individual, I take care of those needs, and that is showing myself love. That is the foundation, just that bare survival sense of self, that then you take that and you build onto that with loving other people after. Is there's lots of kind of catchy phrases of like, oh, you can't love others until you love yourself. Whether you hold that or not, the kind of more nuanced way to say it is that your sense of is that your love for yourself is the foundation on which you will love other people. So if you don't have that, if you have a shaky foundation and lack of self-love, you may still be able to love other people, but it often comes more from this place of insecurity of, oh, I have to love other people so that they will love me because I don't, or I'm terrified of what would happen if I didn't care for other people. I would be just as alone as I feel with myself. Like if you're totally non-egoically caring for other people, it's not the highest form of love or the most well-adjusted or healthiest kind of love. It doesn't mean it's impossible. So no, you can love other people even if you don't have a great sense of love for yourself. But this is the most sturdy, foundational, healthy ways to start with the self. And so that is the really grand opportunity in Aries season, is to pare back, bringing it back into your own sense of self, and you don't necessarily have to, there's no really why attached to this level of love and this level of being. It is truly unconditional love, the Aries love. It's not, I love you for what you do, I love you for who you are, I love you for what you make me feel, I love you because of this. It's none of that. It is just, I am and I love. I am and I love myself. My very existence demands some sort of response, and that response is, or hopefully we're moving to, is just this adoration of the existence of yourself that then reflects to the adoration of the existence of other people. That learning that unconditional love of a being just because it is a being then makes it so much easier to reflect that to other people. I exist and I love myself. And that person over there exists too. Wow, maybe I love them too, because why not? Like that reflection, it builds up instead of being this egoic love or narcissistic love that shuts out other people and says, I love me. That's all the love I have. I love me to the exclusion of others. I have to love me because I'm the only greatest thing that ever existed. That's an exclusive love. That's not like the most embodied that we're looking for. Instead, it's this ever-building mirrored love that starts with the self and builds out. So that's this invitation that this card is suggesting, this connection between, or the polarity of this hubris, megalomania, and then this love being the opposition there, and the kind of medicine there. And I even love just as the little detail, because I like these little details of symbolism, the in Pentecost, that story of the Holy Spirit coming down in little tongues of flame onto the heads and into the souls of the people, and then they can speak in tongues, and have this exuberant, drunken excitement. That's a fire little thing. That's Aries is a fire sign, so I enjoy little things like that, even if it's not the biggest deal. So yeah, just enjoy that spark and that fire. So that's a very like positive vibe, but there's still the tower situation happening. Like there's this is a major arcana. So major arcana is both like long-term energy for yourself. So it's rather than like this is probably not just the energy of the month. This may be the energy for the year, because anytime like the Aries energy, because it is the start of the energetic cycle, it usually ripples out and kind of sets the theme for the rest of the year, even if each kind of month has its own nuance to it. So that's likely this energy is going to be present for you for most of this year, but this is major arcana, so it's also collective energy. So this is probably a lot of what's going to be up for everybody. And we can definitely see that a lot anyway in the world, that there's kind of tower moments of hubris, megalomania, destruction, separation, empires rising and falling, still dealing with pandemic. And so we're kind of presented in the world and in our personal life with these choice points always of, do I go with the hubris, the megalomania, the destruction, confusion, crashing apart, or do I try to choose this unifying love that is not a homogeny? It's not that everybody suddenly started knowing all the same language. It's that they all spoke their language, their own separate language, but they understood each other. There is still diversity in the story of Pentecost. It isn't this all become one unit now. But it's this understanding and love anyway that isn't lessened by the diversity. Diversity, it doesn't have to be division, and that's sort of what this invitation is. In the world, we're presented with this heavily all the time, and in your own personal life. So this is this isn't the Tower card is never like light. It's never easygoing. It's not the like tranquil little ocean and sipping your juices. Like this is intense stuff, and it is because it's paradigm shaking. It's saying the old paradigm was nasty. The old paradigm separated us. It caused destruction and chaos, and it needs to come down. If when it stands, it's static and doesn't allow for proper flow and love and growth. So we gotta bust it down one way or another. But the hope is that you can make choices that means you aren't going to crash along with the old paradigm. Whether it's systematic paradigms or whether it's paradigms in your own life, that they can crash and fall. Empires can rise and fall. Paradigms and beliefs can grow and crash down. But you, as the egoic center, as that flame, that little light and spark, you don't have to crash with it. You can fly. You can leap when the time comes. Take that jump and trust in the free fall, and trust that you're better off in flight than you are clinging to a crashing down paradigm. So that's a lot of the kind of tie into the Aries energy and your experience as an Aries. Towards the end of the month, we have this Taurus energy. So that is much more stable, and much, but there's this, Taurus energy, it's an earth sign and it's a fixed sign. So it's the most stable, steady energy. So that brings with it kind of the dual power of like stubbornness, which can be a good or a bad thing. It can be the stubborn, even more clinging to your old ways, or it can be the nothing is going to shake me. I'm getting to my goal no matter what is crashing around me. I am connected to my vision and nothing can sway me. So the stubbornness of Taurus can be harnessed in either direction. And so that's kind of, again, what was your choice? Do you take the impulsive leap off the tower that the Aries ram is kind of inviting you to at a certain time? And then you have that kind of injected with this Taurus strength of I've made my choice and I'm committing to this and nothing will sway me. Or are you staying to the paradigm and are you stubbornly holding, and then that Taurus energy is going to hold you even more rigidly, and take your chances, kind of collapsing with the old paradigm. So go either way. It all sounds very dramatic, and of course, you can pare this down as micro or as macro as you can get. Usually, things are reflections of what's happening in the world. So if you are not like prepared or resourced to be playing with the paradigms and the towers of the world out there, that's fine. We're not all there, and that's not always necessary. If these are the micro kind of towers and paradigms in your own life, then in fact, if those are happening in your life, you absolutely should be tending to those because nobody else can. So there's plenty of other people out in the world to work on the big towers. You can also work on yours if they're personal. So don't ever feel that like, again, it's selfish or it's not heroic, or that it's not as important to be working in your own life energies when there's other things happening out there. Like, that's fine. You're a you. These are your concerns. And if you have the ability to feed in a tangible way to the things in the world, sure, but just feeding into yourself is also, it's part of that love, like that self-love, starting with the self, and then that shows you how you can support and reflect love to other people. Don't like skip past that stage for yourself. So I gotta stop because I could go on for this forever. If you are curious to learn even more about what's happening with Aries season, because it's super relevant for you in particular, highly recommend you check out my Aries season forecast workshop. It's a pay what you can workshop, so it's super accessible on my YouTube channel here, and that's going to give you more specific information on more of the planetary movements and the energies that is coming. There's still a lot of Pisces kind of holdover from last year as some planets are moving into that. So there's still kind of lots going on that's not covered in this video. So that would be super, super useful for you to take, just to have a greater context of what everybody's going through, that then you can kind of fill in the gaps around the edges for this particular card for yourself. So highly recommend check that out. And otherwise, happy birthday. Best of luck to you, Aries, and you're going to have a rockin' April.